Hello, I'm Michael Marsh. Welcome to the program dedicated to reestablishing constitutional government, first in Oregon and then in the United States. With me is Bruce Cuff, who is a Republican candidate for governor, and every now and then you'll see my co-host, Camo. I call her my camouflage little puppy dog. And so, Bruce, why are you a candidate for governor? Why are you running for governor?
Well, Oregon right now, Oregon's just headed the wrong direction, and this is my third time running for governor, and a lot of the issues that I ran on in the last 2 years, when we were talking about, just the fact that we need to get our public lands back where the people of Oregon actually have control of those. That we need a school system that we can be proud of, that has some sort of school choice in it where parents have a right to choose. Second Amendment rights are always key, and we see those being trampled on all the time. So there's just a lot of things. I'm a native Oregonian, and I want my children and my grandchildren to be able to grow up here. And our land use planning laws are very restrictive, and that's one of the reasons we have the high cost of housing that we have in Oregon. So there's a lot of things that I think just need to be fixed. And being a native Oregonian, and my wife being a native Oregonian from Ontario, Oregon, she's from Eastern Oregon, a dairy farmer's daughter from over there, and I grew up in the Brooks area. So, we're from Oregon, and we want Oregon to be a place that we can be proud of, and that it's headed the right direction. And right now, it's not. It's not headed the right direction. So that's why I'm in the race, to be able to turn it around.
Okay, so I guess one real important question is, do you have a way of getting 150,000 Democrats to vote for you?
Well, there is a lot of Democrats who are conservative, and I whenever I attend veteran events or whatnot, they're conservative. But they're older Democrats that will not change parties. I've asked them. I said, "Hey, will you, change parties and vote for me in the primary?" And they say, "No, I've been a Democrat all my life. The only one I've been able to get to change is my stepdad, Bill Jones. He changed parties to vote for me, but most of them won't." And there's a lot of Democrats that the current governor has basically stepped all over their gun rights. And there's people in the Democratic Party, Senator Przansky out of Eugene, he continues to just put bills forth to take away Second Amendment rights and restrict. So there's a lot of hunters and gun owners out there who are Democrats that I think they've had enough. The campaign slogan is "Enough is enough. It's time for Bruce Cuff." And that's where a lot of them are. But yeah, I'm real personable. My dad was a barber, so a lot of times what I'll do in Democratic areas or whatnot, I'll just go into the barber shops and bring my information in there, sit down and talk to the guys, and if somebody likes you, they'll vote for you. And I'm, I try to connect with people because, I basically love people. I try not to judge people. I just try to reach across the aisle and say, is there some common ground that we have? And just being nice and personable with people, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. The golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated. So, yeah.
Now, assuming that you get the you win the primary, and you have about 4 opponents so far?
There's 8 people running.
8?
Yeah, there's probably 4 main opponents, I guess. But, I kind of hate that because, everybody that's running should have a voice at the table, really, because, it's hard to choose if you don't know all the people that are running. There's some of them that are pretty inexperienced that have jumped in the race, and I've met a few of them. They're great guys. They have things to say. But, whether they're going to have all 8 of us on a stage for debates, I kind of doubt it. It's probably going to be limited to 3 or 4, which is just, that's just the way it is. And whoever's putting it on, it's their format. So I just try to go with what they're doing. So,
but if you are the Republican primary, if you're the nominee, there'll be a lot of issues on the ballot. I don't know about a lot, but there'll be quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be taking stands on these?
Yes,
issues?
in fact, I'm already taking stands. There's 2 of them out there that I carry with me that I get signatures for. Well, there's actually 4 of them that I've been carrying with me. But the main 2 are petition number 1, which is to stop the public funding of abortions. No matter what you feel about abortions, I'm pro-life. But no matter what you feel, I mean, if somebody is irresponsible, why should the rest of society pay for their irresponsibility? They can pay for their own abortion if they're going to get one. And even the pro-choice community, there's a lot of people that are just saying, this is over the top. This is, and our governor took, I mean, if you look at the numbers, she basically took $10 million from the veterans. She tried to. And then that $10 million showed up over in the Oregon Health Plan to provide $10 million for every illegal alien in the state of Oregon to get an abortion. So tip from the veterans and give to this. I mean, that's over the top. The other issue that the other one that I'm carrying is Initiative Petition 22, which is to stop the sanctuary status of Oregon. We have given the federal government the right to establish a uniform code of naturalization. They're the ones who decide who comes to this country legally and how that's done. So for a state or a county or a city to say, we're going to provide sanctuary, I mean, it's unconstitutional and it's unlawful. And right now we're putting not only our law enforcement people at risk for lawsuits because of the way this governor's behaving, but also we're putting the very fact that when we have a felon that our law enforcement are releasing from jail and they can't talk to immigration and they're sending them back into an immigrant community where they're going to prey on their own people. I mean, that's just unconscionable. How can you do that? And I've talked to a number of law enforcement people just knocking on their door, and they happen to be a law enforcement person. And I talked to them, and they've told me, we literally cannot pick up the phone and talk to immigration because we don't have the money to spend on lawsuits. There are some exceptions in the law that state that you can, if the person has a federal warrant or they're a felony and you're releasing, there's exceptions in this law that would allow you to. But Governor Brown's executive order she wrote in February of 2017 in regards to Trump getting elected president, it has muddied the water so much that the police just can't do it. The police and sheriff's departments, they just will not pick up the phone and call them because they're getting sued. There's one right now in Clackamas County, a deputy that's been sued. So anyway, those are the 2. And I think those 2 she has to defend. I mean, those are her babies. When we get to the ballot, it's sanctuary status. She's got to defend that, and she's got to defend her public funding of abortion. She has run that to the nth degree, and I don't think that most Oregonians are there. I think that those 2 issues are big winners for Republicans and conservatives, and for the state of Oregon, quite frankly, those 2 have to be changed.
Yeah.
So
I support both those initiatives.
Yeah.
You said there's a couple of others?
Well, there's a couple others. I think it's Initiative Petition 5, which I think it makes all of voter registrations expire in 2020, and then you're going to have to prove citizenship to be able to register to vote. And the other one, I don't remember the number on. I think it's 31, Initiative Petition 31, but it makes all, not just taxes, but any fee increase or whatever they call it, it's going to require a 3/5 majority to pass that. Right now, they just don't call it a tax. They can call it a fee, an assessment, anything else, and then they just get a simple majority to pass it, and that is skirting the law. So basically, this governor, what she's best at is lawlessness. And I think people have had it. Like I said, enough is enough. It's time for Bruce Cuff. I mean, I think people are there. And they'll say it to me at the door. When I'm knocking on their door, we talk, and we're talking, and in the conversation, they will say, enough is enough. And I'll point to my flyer, and I'll say, hey, did you just read that off the flyer? And they say, no, I didn't. That's where I'm at. And that's where people are. I really believe it. That's where people are. So, coming out of this primary as the conservative, here's what I believe, just looking at past elections, is that a conservative out of this primary is going to get 200,000 more votes in the general election than a moderate Republican's going to get, because they don't energize the base. There's just a lot of pro-life, conservative independents, conservative Democrats, and other conservative Republicans that maybe pro-life is not the top of their agenda, but they won't vote for a moderate who's pro-choice. We've got a moderate in this race for Republican who's pro-choice. He's voted for gun restrictions, and he's come out publicly and bashed our president, Donald Trump, before the primary, and even continues to do so on DACA and other things that we're trying to get fixed. I mean, so he's at odds with our very president, and he's running in a Republican primary. Well, I don't think that's where most conservatives in the Republican Party are. I think he's going to ultimately fail, and I'm actually going to win this primary, even though I tell people at the door, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get 1,000 people in Oregon to send me $100, $100,000. I can win this campaign with $100,000, and I think when we do that, the opposition in the fall, they're going to have a hard time figuring out how to beat us, because our strategy is to go door to door. I just completed going through all 36 counties of Oregon. January 2nd I started. I went all 36 counties in 36 days. We had an 8 a.m. breakfast. We met with supporters. We had lists for that county of all the very conservative Republicans who vote. We broke that up. If they take the precinct of where they live and go door to door, I'd give them the flyers to do that. Or if they wanted to do more, we tried to get 400 to 500 things into the community. I could hit about 100 doors in a day, and then we'd move on to the next county. So some of these smaller counties, we actually were able to cover them in one entire day. So that was designed to get the rural vote early. And I think we accomplished that. Next Monday, the 19th, we're starting back, and we're going back through all 60 House districts, because I want to not just win the governor's race, I want to win the House and the Senate. And I think if we start early and we have good candidates and we get to their door and we introduce them early, that we'll have a chance of winning. And so, that literally looks, like a week on the South Coast, a week in Lane in Douglas County, and a week in the Salem area, and then literally 5 weeks in the Portland area. We're going to be there 5.5 weeks going door to door. I think I'm in Washington County like a week and a half, and I'm in Clackamas County a whole entire week. I'm in Multnomah County a whole entire week, so we're gonna run a door-to-door campaign where we actually go out to the voters and say, hey, we want your vote, we need your vote, and it's a fundraiser for us too. When we look at them, we say, hey, if you're wanting, and the way I explain myself is I am a Christian, constitutional, conservative Republican, okay, in that order. Right, so we have to get back to our Constitution. We live in a representative republic. We don't live in a democracy. So, it's very important that we follow our Constitution, and we're not doing that now. We are not doing that. The federal government has many administrative agencies that are unconstitutional, and quite frankly, they're ruining Oregon. The BLM and the U.S. Forest Service are shutting roads down. They're supposed to be logging on a lot of these lands. They've directed, from the Congress to meet certain minimum requirements for sustainable logging. They're not doing it. Arbitrarily saying you can't cut a tree over 80 years old. I mean, you can't get to the sustainable numbers that Congress has said you will cut without doing that. So we need a governor that says, we're going to be logging in Oregon. We need to get back to our natural resource-based businesses in the state of Oregon. So those are the key issues for me.
And as the governor, you will be on the Land Use Board.
Right. Yeah.
Dennis Richardson and
Yeah, the land board is the three: the governor, the secretary of state, and the treasurer. And yeah, that would be two. I mean, I'm assuming Richardson would be there for logging, but yeah, that'd be two votes for. That'd be two, and hopefully, 2 years from now, we'll get Jeff Goodman. He's running. He's going to run as treasurer again, and we'll have 3 votes there. So, but yeah, going to Eastern Oregon and spending time, meeting people at their door, they don't know what they're going to do. They have, now we know we basically shut our logging down in Oregon. The spotted owl was a lie.
yeah,
Everybody knows that now. Both sides know that. It was a lie, and we shut our logging down over a lie, and then we let the courts do it. If we'd had leadership that pushed back, we wouldn't have done that, Yeah, I just think it's funny they've killed over 700 of these other owls trying to, actually alleviate the problem that was actually the issue, and so, yeah, but we need, without those natural resource-based businesses, I mean, Oregon is a rich natural resource-based state. You're not going to get rural communities back up and running without doing that. Tourism is not working. And when the U.S. Forest Service of the BLM says we're closing half the roads to the forests, why would people go there to even, be a tourist? Because they can't get access to the woods, so they're not going. So a lot of these businesses that's what they're based on now. They're gonna suffer, and they know it. And you just see the wildfires we had last year, and you talk to retired foresters, and they'll tell you our forests are in horrible shape. The ones that the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service are supposed to be taking care of. See, the way I look at it, all of the public land in Oregon belongs to the people of Oregon. I don't care who manages it. It belongs to the people of Oregon. It doesn't belong to anybody in any other state. It belongs to the people of Oregon. We got people from out of state coming here telling us these public lands belong to them. No, they don't. They belong to the people of Oregon. That's who they belong to. And as governor, I'm going to make sure that the people of Oregon, they get access to their land, and we get access to those natural resources. And without removing some of this fuel from the forests and actually cleaning up the mess that we have and replanting, our state is it's getting wrecked by people who should know better. They're getting paid enough money to know better, but they just seem like they don't care, So, but anyway, that's our goal, is to get this turned around. And of course, the major driver for everything that the Democrats are doing is the PERS deficit. $25 billion in deficit. When you look at the total number, Alan Alley did a great presentation up at the Executive Club where he talked about the actual cash flow. $209 billion is what we owe over the next 30 years to our PERS retirees. So if you continue to tax businesses and run them out of the state, you're not going to get there. We have 4 million people in Oregon. We have 1.8 million people employed. And we have 300,000 people that work for government. That's 1 in 6 jobs. That's unsustainable. And they keep hiring. So, the state of Oregon needs to just put a kibosh on hiring, and any new hires need to not have a state retirement. They need to just have a 401k plan like anybody else does today. Not something we're going to promise them something that we don't have, because we already have a commitment to our current PERS retirees to actually make sure that we keep our contract with them. And the only way we can keep our contract is to actually expand the private sector businesses. We need to cut taxes on businesses to 0 so we have more businesses come to Oregon, so that we have more employment, so that we can actually bring the state back to health,
Well, speaking of, PERS and all that, one major problem is that the government unions
Yeah.
are allowed to participate in the electoral process, and they elect all these Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Should they, and I'm not really sure you can do anything except use the bully pulpit, but should the government union be able to actually participate in the
Well, that's that.
election
I believe that question is before the Supreme Court right now, and I don't remember what the case is. But by this summer, it may be that a lot of these public unions, the portion that they take from their union members that they actually funnel into Democratic races, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So that's going to be huge. But the thing about PERS that is most disturbing to me is it's supposed to be a public employees retirement system. But we have all of our judges, we have all of our legislators, we have every elected official basically in the PERS system. That is not right. We should get all the elected people out of PERS so they can actually manage it without conflict of interest, and leave it as a retirement system for our public employees, not for elected officials, not for judges. When the legislature tries to fix something in PERS and they're all in PERS voting on it, and then if it gets challenged, it goes to a judge who's also in PERS.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a conflict of interest the public looks at that and goes, are we just like crazy or what? Because that any other time you'd have to recuse yourself and just, you couldn't rule on that. But when that's all you got, when they're all in there, what are you going to do, Yeah. So, but, there was some mistakes made in the past. I think prior to the market dropping in 2007, I think the 2 years prior to that, they gave distributions into those PERS accounts that were way more than they should have. They should have capped it at 8% like they were supposed to, and kept all that rest in reserve, because if you got to keep paying 8% when the market goes down, I think 2008 it was like $8 billion, just like that we had a deficit, and the market's going up now, but we still have PERS deficits going up. So if this market takes a falter, it's going to be a lot more than 25 billion in the hole. The 25 billion is based on the fact that they believe that they're going to be able to make 7.2% on the money that's in PERS into the future. If they make less than that, then that 25 billion, it's more than that, so it's just based on a guess. So, but everything the Democrats are doing to plug that hole, the cap and invest, the 700 million tax, 1.4 billion biennium tax that they're going after. In the gross receipt stacks that they've tried in the past on businesses, they're just doing everything wrong. Because every time they're going to try to tax, literally, if you look at our general fund, it's about $20 billion. It's a little bit less than that. It might be a little bit more than that now, but it's $20 billion. Literally $1 billion of that is business taxes. That's 5%. And every time they try to expand that, when those businesses take their jobs out of state, you got 95% is personal income tax that employees pay. When they take their jobs out of state and those employees leave and we lose those jobs, they go backwards. So I'm trying to, if you're working for the Public Employees Union out there, listen, stop shooting yourself in the foot. Let's let businesses have no tax in Oregon. Let's move toward more private sector businesses, less government businesses, and we can maybe meet this need. We may be able to meet our needs to the PERS retirees. But as long as we continue to drive business out of state and try to tax them to make up the difference, we're going to be failing. And schools are failing. Schools, they keep giving more money to schools, and 2 years ago it was $10,000. Now it's $13,000. Well, it's expanding that way because of PERS, and we're having to cut back on teachers and expand class sizes. So that's an accountable system. We need to have choice in schools. We need to have parents and teachers that I'd like to see teachers come out of the public system and form an LLC and actually have their own private schools and give parents 70% of what the state is currently spending, just 70% of that. That's a 30% savings. I bet they can find a school for their kids to go to at 70% of what the state's currently spending.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a 30% savings, and they can choose where their kids go to school. And but that's, you know, those are issues that I'm running on, and I think are on the right side of where we need to be. So
Earlier you mentioned that we're a democratic republic rather than
a representative republic.
well,
Yeah.
So there's going to be a bill, and it'll probably pass, quote, national popular vote, unquote, which is an attempt to nullify the electoral college. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be taking a stand on that?
Well, if they want to change the Constitution, they need to change the Constitution. But the Electoral College, it protects smaller states, and it makes the presidential race have to be truly a national race. If we go to a popular vote, then these smaller states are never going to see anybody campaign. They're going to go to all the population centers, and you know, you think we have a rural-urban divide in America now? It's going to be worse. So I think our founding fathers were very wise to the way they set up the Electoral College, because what it does is it puts every state in play, and they've got to win those states to actually win the vote. So one state can't be overly, you know, 80%, and they basically elect the president. Every state has something to say in that scenario, and I think the Electoral College is the way we should just keep it that way. I don't agree with the national anything that moves us from a representative republic, the way that our founding fathers set up, to a democracy, which is just, you know, going for the national vote. That's in the wrong direction, because democracies, if you look at history, they deteriorate into mob rule. And they destroy. Everyone in history was just a disaster. So I think our founding fathers did this right.
Yeah, I do too. That's also why each state has 2 senators.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
And,
Wish we could get that done in Oregon. Yeah. If we had 1 senator per county
yeah.
in Oregon, and then we had the House on Oregon, rural issues would be heard. So
that would be a really good thing. Okay, we got a little over 30 seconds. Is there anything you want to say that you haven't said yet?
Well, my contact information, my website is timeforcuff.org, time, the number 4, cuff, cuff.org. And I have a Facebook page out there, but it's Bruce Cuff for Governor of Oregon. Somebody killed my profile, so I don't have access. I have somebody else managing it now, but those are the 2 main ways to get a hold of me. And my phone number's on there, my cell phone, I carry it, so call me if you have a question. So,
okay, thanks for coming on and sharing your views.
Yeah.
And good luck in the election.
All right, thank you, Michael.